The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Subscribe to the First and 12 podcast. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio.
We're off and running here on hour number 2 of First and 12. Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry with you. You can listen to Alex weekdays on our sibling station, the KSL Sports Zone with JJ and Alex, 3 to 7. You can listen to me here daily on KSL News Radio, 6:30 p.m. every night on Cougar Tracks and Cougar Sports Saturday on the weekends, noon to 3 here on KSL News Radio. Right now, let's get to our highly debated, maybe the least debated one this week.
I didn't push back that much.
Big 12 Power Rankings.
The Big 12 Power Rankings. A weekly rank of all 16 programs, from the elite to the bottom dwellers.
All right, so let's go with first things first here. No, we'll start from the bottom. Isn't that the way we do things?
Well, I think maybe we could go to the top this week, because I think the conversation before the show was like, it was surprising who we had at the bottom.
Yeah, and I'm okay. Yeah, look, every week we kind of switch it up. These change every week, and so it's not like we're going to get married to how we roll these things out. They will change. I can be convinced, like, at the drop of a hat, too, when we're this early in the season, and some of these teams, somebody's dog dies during the week, and I'm like, nah, they're down. We're going to put them down one. I know they won last week, but his dog died. And that's how our rankings work. We dive deep into this stuff. All right, we don't do this whole AP poll branding thing only. All right, we go straight to what have you done for me lately. So let's start at the top. Texas Tech stays at the top, and no changes there. They had a bye week. They're still just this power team, and now they're gonna fire things up again. They're gonna go down to Houston. They have a chance to put it on the Houston Cougars down there and go to 5-0. And this conference needs undefeateds if they're gonna get taken seriously. And I think Texas Tech is probably your best option to be able to get there so far. Number
1 total offense is Texas Tech, 573 yards per game, and then defensively, second in the league, only behind BYU, allowing 11.3 points per game. They're doing it on both sides. They had that huge win over Utah. Still, the schedule, when you take it as a whole, has been relatively light outside of Utah.
And it's not going to be,
but they're dominating teams.
And they've got a pretty nice looking road to be able to go undefeated.
They do.
If they're going to do it, there's going to be some places that are going to give them some problems.
You play the schedule game with Tech at Houston, at Arizona State, at K-State, at West Virginia. That's your 4 road games left. You get by Houston this week, ASU's really the only road game
and that's the one they go.
Makes you scared.
They go to Tempe, and Arizona State's been shaky, right? And if a team goes in there and is a little less shaky than even, TCU, they fumble it away. Like, it wasn't ASU dominating that game as much as it was TCU falling apart kind of toward the end. Now you have to pounce if you're ASU, but that's why being in the big situations that were last year probably helped that group, because they knew what to do in these late games that were tight. And so Texas Tech at 1. We have Iowa State at 2. I'm okay with putting them there. I still think, that's how they're ranked in the big polls too. That's how kind of goes in that order.
And that was impressive, that win over Arizona,
just almost 40,
to dominate Arizona on both sides. Because you kind of chalk up that Arkansas State game a few weeks back to just maybe it was the grind of Ireland and the hangover from all those weeks of stacking up games in a short period of time. They looked like they were refreshed. They were rejuvenated. They looked great coming out of the bye, and I think that was pretty impressive to see, hey, maybe this team's got a few more gears to its ceiling than maybe thinking, oh, they were just who they are. No, this is a team that's getting better over the course of the season.
So last week we had Iowa State ahead of BYU in that number, or behind BYU, in that number 4 spot. We had them in the 4 spot and BYU at 3. BYU won their game this week. However, Iowa State won the bigger game, and so I think that was kind of a bigger deal. But Arizona
and dominated.
Right. In Arizona State, we have them leaping BYU on this one as well, because again, it's a bigger win. They beat a TCU team that I think that if you win a close game against Colorado, people kind of go, so what happened there, right? I mean, there's a little bit of that. Yeah, we're supposed to beat them, but you were supposed to beat them by double digits, man. You guys always beat the spread on this kind of stuff, and it didn't happen. And there are still parts of that offense that people look at and go, what are you doing here? What's going on? I think that the freshman Bear Bachmeier is doing great, but Arizona State leaps BYU in our weekly poll this week. We have BYU at 4 and TCU at 5 after that loss to Arizona State. Look, I mean, you got to be happy about it if you're BYU. You've kind of hung at the top. They are undefeated. Your undefeateds are Texas Tech, Iowa State, and Houston. Right? Are those the only undefeateds there? So And again, we still don't believe in Houston yet, totally, fully. You've got to figure it out a little bit more and show us a little bit more. But BYU 4, TCU 5. We have Utah at 6. I think we almost could have put Utah above TCU just because of how dominant they were, and their one loss is to Texas Tech, who I think we all look at as the best team in the league right now. But until they kind of get, I mean, the good news is, but what's crazy? These teams don't play each other. Well, and Texas Tech and TCU don't play each other either.
And TCU, though, I would say they got a better body of work. 2 power conference wins thus far, SMU and North Carolina. Utah, only the 1 win. Or they got 2 wins at West Virginia as well. But I just look at TCU. I think they're going to get, eventually they'll get Barnes back. Utah took some injuries, too, this past week with West Virginia. But it was good to see Dampier back to maybe that week 1 against UCLA, that success that he was having offensively, beating a bad opponent and hammering them, because you thought in that Texas Tech game, was that all a mirage in the non-conference with the offense? And now they're in Big 12 play, and that just goes completely south in what they did last season. That bounced back, and I think Utah really had a nice bounce-back performance. Number 7, Cincinnati. And Cincy...
That's the biggest jump, by the way, that we've had this week. And frankly, it's the highest we've had Cincinnati ever.
Cincinnati deserves... There's a case to be made that they could be 6, because... I thought that was a huge win at Kansas. And I think also Cincinnati, very balanced football team. They can do it in a lot of different ways. The ground attack is more leaning on the quarterback and Brendan Sorsby, but Cincinnati is pretty potent offensively. Yeah. They were going blow for blow with Kansas. That was one of the more entertaining games of the weekend in college football. That was a really good game.
Yeah, and Cincinnati, I was watching the game, and they're perfect in the red zone. But more importantly, I think in their 14 trips to the red zone, I think they have 1 field goal, and then the rest are touchdowns. Yes. So it's not just scoring in the red zone, it's punching into the end zone, which ask any of these coaches. You talk about something that kills your team. It's not being able to finish drives with touchdowns, but Cincinnati looking sharp right there. How about Houston going up to number 8 in our power poll? They're undefeated at 4-0. They beat that Oregon State team, but Oregon State's 0-5 now.
Yeah, they're bad.
Oregon State was at Corvallis. So it was on the road. It's a weird place for a Houston Cougar team to go up and play. Nevertheless, they had to kind of eke one out against one of the worst teams in college football right now, that Oregon State team. Baylor, number 9. I have no idea what to think about the Baylor Bears. Yeah. They're 3-2.
Defense still looks a little shaky to give up 27 points to Oklahoma State.
And their two losses are at home. And so those were ones that you go, look, you cannot have those. I know those are your biggest games so far, but you gave it away against Arizona State, and you got beat up actually pretty badly by Auburn. So I still think they have a lot to do to prove. Kansas tumbling out of the single digits and getting themselves to a spot now where we're going, what are you, Kansas? Lance Leipold, I thought you had this thing turned around. I like the sharp uniforms. I like the new stadium, but you can't win there. What's going on?
Yeah, that was a tough loss for Kansas, because if you get that win over Cincinnati, we're looking at Kansas in a whole different light this week as maybe a title contender. And that was just a missed opportunity for Lance Leipold's program, that they take steps. They continue to show that Kansas football, it's not a school that's just solely basketball. Kansas football is a tough out every single week, but can you get into that upper crust of the league? That's still the challenge in front of them. Outside of that 1 9-win season, they haven't really been a title threat, and that's what made that loss such a missed opportunity. You compound that with the missed opportunity too at Missouri, where they were up 21-0. Just missed chances for Kansas. You think that's going to plague this team, because that was an issue last year with close losses. It's rearing its ugly face again.
Arizona, they take that loss, and it was a big one, and they go back down to the double digits. They're at 11. Kansas State, 12. We still haven't seen enough from Kansas State. I know they got the win over UCF, but
it was promising.
It was.
To see Avery Johnson, Dylan Edwards, maybe they could get to 7 or 8 wins.
Yeah.
Maybe
the athleticism of Avery Johnson is still shocking when you see it. Yes. The way he is able to personally just go, I'm going to make every one of these dudes on the field miss if I want to, and he does. Colorado 13, they stay in the 13 spot after putting up a valiant effort against BYU, but just still not able to really find themselves. UCF at 14. And then the two that we swapped this week, or didn't swap, but we put one team all the way to the bottom. They were 14th last week. You and I both agree that West Virginia feels like a program that right now is actually in the bigger depths of despair than even Oklahoma State is.
I was listening to Rich Rod's radio show this week, and it was weird. It's, beginning of October in the season, only week 6, and they're talking about, recruiting and building the rosters up for the future years. I'm thinking, are they just looking at this as just move on from this season? That kind of surprises me because still, even though it's a bunch of new faces, it's your guys that you brought in. You can't say this excuse of, I inherited this roster. There's 80-plus new faces. This is Rich Rod's offense or Rich Rod's roster, and the results are pretty bad. They're not even competitive right now in Big 12 games. Oklahoma State at least was competitive against Baylor and showed some fight. And that's why I gave them a little bit of a bump over West Virginia here in this spot. In West Virginia, Nico Marchioli is still banged up with the foot injury down in Arizona. They got some quarterback issues. Jaheim White's out. Jaden Bray, their top wide receivers out. So, long list of injuries, and I can understand why this maybe feels like a bit of a year zero for the Mountaineers, but they're farther back than maybe I thought they would in year one with Rich Rod.
Bottom of the barrel. Your coach gets fired at Oklahoma State, and Mitch Harper still puts you underneath Oklahoma State.
They're just not competitive, Alex.
No, I know. No, I get it.
They're not competitive right now.
We talked about it before the show, and it was like this. Yeah, I don't hate that. I absolutely don't. Let's take our next break here, and we'll come back. Colorado gets busted as a student body. How do you handle this if you're an athletic department? How do you handle it in the Big 12? BYU seems to get this harassment quite often, but the result has been that Colorado is going to get dinged. We'll tell you about that fine, and we'll tell you about the circumstances surrounding the bigotry chant that comes to BYU more often than I think BYU fans would prefer, obviously, ever. So we'll come right back. More to go. It's right here, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM. It is First and 12.